Hey guys, my name is Nikki and I wanted to tell you a little bit about my financial journey and something that really shaped my personal perspective on life and money. And it really all came down to one decision that I made back in 2015. This channel is going to be all about investing in yourself, and that's going to manifest a lot in terms of finances. So investing in, whether it's investing in stocks, investing in your career, and also just investing your time into the things that are important to you. It could be family, it could be travel, really anything that makes sense in your life. I hope that you enjoy this story and that it helps you get to know me a little bit better. And let's get started. Back in December of 2014, I graduated from college, and I was really lucky. I actually graduated with 5 job offers. So I was able to negotiate my first salary, which was really great. I'm super proud of that. And I walked out of college with what I think was going to be a pretty generous salary. It was about $68,000. I was getting ready to figure out my life and what it was going to look like. I needed to find a place to live and figure out, what I was going to spend every month. All of these things that I never really had to do before because I had gone straight from living at home to living in a dorm and being really supported by my parents, who, by the way, are the absolute best. I love you guys. I was really privileged in that sense. I really didn't have to struggle before this point in my life. When I was graduating, I knew what my salary was going to be. I didn't really know what my take-home pay was going to look like because I had never had a job before, or at least I think a job that I had had to budget on before. So I didn't pay as much attention in previous jobs to what was going to taxes and things like that. And I also had never had a job with benefits. So didn't know what all that was going to look like. So because I knew I was making $68,000 a year starting out, I knew I needed to start somewhere with trying to figure out a rent budget. Now, what I did, and I'm not saying this was the right way to do it, but it is the real way that I think I did it, was I took $68,000 a year, divided it by 12. That gave me a monthly amount of about $5,600 before taxes. And I multiplied it by 67% because I assumed that some money would get taken out for taxes, benefits, all that good stuff. Turns out that that's pretty accurate for my life now, but that's besides the point. I do think that's kind of a good rule of thumb if you're not putting anything super crazy into your 401k, but you are contributing to it. Sorry, my kitty cat sitting on my notes. Is Calvin, who's very needy and wants to play. So we'll see if he will actually let me film this. So 67% of that monthly amount is about $3,800. And then what I did from there was I took a third of that because I read online you shouldn't spend more than a third of your take-home pay on rent. Now, is that a good rule of thumb? Probably. What I didn't really factor in at the time was some of the other expenses in my life, which I will get into in a sec. I based my apartment hunting budget on that amount of money, which was about $1,250. Now, I think I did find an apartment for maybe about $1,210. It was a great apartment. It was in a safe area. It was close to work. It was really everything I wanted out of an apartment. And I was thinking like, oh, I'm living the dream. I have this great job. I'm living in this cool area. I'm living on my own in the city. It's awesome. It was after I signed the lease, but before I moved in, I went home for Christmas and I was talking to my folks. I had told them like, hey, I want to make sure that I can pay the loans that were in your name for my school. And it was a lot of money. My parents took out about $120,000 of loans for my school, and I wanted to be the one to pay it. I started reading up on student loans during that period of time, and I was realizing that the number that all of the websites were saying that a student graduates with is $30K. And I was like, why are mine so much more? That doesn't really make sense unless they're not counting the ones that are in the parents' name and they're just counting the ones in the kid's name. And I realized like, I don't know if I have loans in my name. And so I plugged in my social on the student loan site and I found out that I owed like $30,000. And I'm sure some people are gonna like look at me and think that I'm stupid, but I really didn't know. I don't know if I didn't pay attention when I was supposed to, but my parents were the ones filling out the forms. And so I knew that I was gonna have to pay loans, but I don't think I really understood all of the complexities around it. So yeah, I discovered randomly one day in December that I owed a lot more money. So my student loan debt in total was about $150,000. And my monthly payment minimums in total for all of those loans were about $1,270, more than the rent that I had just signed up for. So it was stressful, but I was like, you know what? I can figure anything out. I got this. So I started working, and I was being really careful with my spending. I wasn't eating out a lot. I was trying to meal plan. I was couponing. I was working on Rover, walking dogs and pet sitting and things like that. Pulling a lot of levers to make sure that I could save some money. And now, don't get me wrong, I wasn't pulling every lever. I didn't have a roommate. I wasn't like getting a real second job. I was just doing kind of a side hustle. But I was realizing that my boyfriend at the time, who is now my husband, felt that stress. And I distinctly remember a very intense conversation that he and I had in a car outside of a restaurant, where I think I'd been talking about the fact that I was stressed about money, but I wouldn't tell him anything. I wouldn't tell him the details. And he was like, look, Nikki, like, I see us together in the long run. And if we're going to be together, you have to be able to talk to me about this stuff. And I need to know what your financial situation is. I need to know what your loans look like. After that conversation, I pulled together all of my loan information, showed it to him in a big Excel spreadsheet. And I thought it was going to be so scary. And I think in the moment it kind of was, but I think what I realized in that moment, and especially the way that he approached it, was like, hey, it's something we're going to figure out together. And it's something that you can figure out. It ended up being a much more empowering conversation than I expected. I realized that, yeah, this is, a crappy situation. I owe a lot of money, but it wasn't something I was going to be in forever. And it was something that I knew that I could figure out a way out of. I didn't see the light at the end of the tunnel, but I really understood that there was a light, and that was a big deal. So the rest of the year, I was really continuing to add on to those side hustles, cutting down my expenses. And there comes a point where you have to really look at, like, can I cut my costs anymore, or do I need to increase my income? And as I was taking a hard look at things, I knew I needed to do both. But my boyfriend planted a nugget in my head, right? At some point I was talking about the fact that I was stressed about money, and he was like, at some point you might think about moving to a cheaper place. And that's all he said. He left it there. It wasn't a big deal, but he planted the seed. And so when I got my lease renewal information at the end of the year, I was looking at it, and my apartment was probably like $1,210. I think the new rate was going to be like $1,280. I don't think that was a crazy increase. It was more than I wanted, but I was looking at it and was thinking in my head, oh, I can move this around. I can try to like cut expenses here so I can stay, whatever. And then I really just started thinking, what is this apartment giving that another apartment can't give me? Like, it's in a great area and it's safe and all that good stuff, but are there really no other apartments in my area that would feel safe? That would be that amount of, significantly less money. So I started looking, and I found a place that was $995 instead of $1,210. And I remember being so excited about the fact that it was under $1,000, even though it was literally $5 less than $1,000. But anyways, I toured it. I loved it. It was bright, airy, cute, all of that good stuff. Still a short commute. A little further away, a little less nice. But I mean, come on, for $200 less a month, it was totally worth it. And I remember talking to my mom about it, and she was like, oh, honey, you don't need to move. Like, I'll help you. Like, we'll help you out. You don't need that stress. And I was like, I can't afford it. Mom, like, I can't. I just realized, like, I can't afford it. And I realized, I think that because my mom had always wanted to give me everything, and it's something I respect her so much for, she never wanted me to feel like I couldn't afford something. And in looking back, I'm realizing now that saying you can't afford something is not a negative thing. It's just painting a realistic picture of where you are now. It's saying, I can't afford this right now, but if I make different decisions, then I probably can afford it. I was making really good money. I was doing all of these other things, But other things in my life that I didn't want to give up at the time, and I was willing to give up the apartment. And I think that that was a super mature decision on my part that I'm really proud of. And I don't regret it for a second. I think it was, like I said at the top of this video, I think it's the smartest financial decision that I've ever made. And my husband tells me to this day, it's one of the decisions that he's most proud of me making. Because again, it changed my whole thought on things. I'm very okay with saying that I can't afford this. And now I make significantly more money, and I still say I can't afford it sometimes when like realistically I can, but I'm not willing to move my money away from the other things that are important to me for that thing. And therefore, in my mind, I cannot afford it. It's not like a scarcity mindset. It's just me saying like it's not important enough and I can't afford it. And I get that that's maybe not the traditional definition of I can't afford it, but I think for me, it was important to have that realization. The huge takeaway that I have from that whole year is just that tracking your spending is so important, because your money's not gonna lie to you. It's when you track your spending, you're gonna know where it goes. And if you don't like where it's going, you have the power to change it. You just have to have the courage to change it and be okay with maybe being a little less comfortable than you were in the past. But in the long run, it's gonna pay off and you're gonna do amazing things. And there's so many other pieces of this whole journey that I would love to share with you guys. I'm hoping to share a lot more actionable things that you can take away from this, like steps that you can take to build your wealth, to change your mindset on things, to create more time with your family. And like I said, I'm really hoping to share that with you guys in this channel. So if this story resonated with you, if you liked it, please subscribe and comment. And also it would be really helpful to share it with a friend, maybe someone that's feeling alone in their student loan journey, or realizing that they're not where they want to be financially, because I want people to know that you can change. And sometimes one really good decision can change the trajectory of your life. You're always one good decision away from something great. So yeah, that's all I got. So thank you guys, and I'll see you next time.